Hello, Oksana. Now I see that you're connected.
Yes, hi.
Greetings from Prague.
Hi.
Hello. We are just waiting 3 more minutes. That's 5 minutes past 6. We're going to start. Anton is also here already.
Hi,
Привет,
Антон.
Оксана. Здравствуй.
Привет, привет.
Как дела?
Ну, ничего, хорошо.
Да.
Добрый вечер.
А где ты? Ты в Петербурге или где?
В Петербурге.
Ты знаешь, я приезжаю. Я приезжаю, по-моему, 17 ноября.
Ура.
На 2 дня, да. Ты будешь там?
Буду.
Надо встретиться.
Обязательно.
17th of November, you are going to Petersburg, right?
Yes.
As I understood.
Yes.
As I told you, it's a Velvet Revolution here anniversary.
On the 17th.
17, yeah, that was the day where the students were beaten by police at the next to Wenceslas Square. Yeah, some of our students are connected already, so it's fine.
Can I share presentation here, right?
Yes. Feel free.
So I can share a screen if.
Well, let's try. Maybe I have to allow it. I don't know how to do it, but let's try maybe before you start. Yeah, we see it.
Is it, I mean, okay? How you see it right now?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you see only one screen, right? Only one slide.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I see also your small
actually,
slides at the side, at the left side, like the whole.
Yeah, we see the whole browser, like it's PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can do it somehow.
Maybe press full screen or something.
No, wrong.
Это, знаешь, наверное, надо нажать кнопку «Вид». Видишь, где меню сверху, там написано «Вид», а что тут, какие есть возможности?
Or maybe start presentation or something like this is also no in PowerPoint.
Yes.
But maybe like this is okay if they see it.
It's fine.
Слайд-шоу просто, да, и с текущего слайда.
Double click on the main slide. So, дважды нажми на главный слайд, который ты показываешь. Double click. No, nothing?
No.
No.
Ну ладно.
О, да, сработало. Вот сейчас все. Вот, замечательно.
Now it's perfect. So should we start?
I think we should. Maybe we wait another 2 minutes. No.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, is that okay? Because I think some people are always a little bit late, and it's a pity.
For me, it's okay. I don't know about Oksana, how much time she has.
I'm fine.
2 minutes. Yeah.
With all options. When I see these slides, I do not see the participants.
Maybe that's better.
It's 21 participants.
Because my slides are boring and the participants are much
more interesting.
Yes, but it's okay. Yeah,
it's very international. There is also a participant from Korea, but actually it's a next speaker, Sohwan Kim. It's a next speaker. So.
Yes, I see.
I see our students and then some visitors, maybe from other schools or the public, probably. Yeah, so I think 10 minutes past 6 we will start.
Okay.
Cool.
So what do you think? Should we start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So should I introduce Oxana?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Oxana, thank you so much for joining us today and doing this talk. It's not necessarily a public lecture. It's basically a course, a special course that is offered by the Academy. Each year they invite a different artist to run a kind of a guest artist class. Yeah, and it's pretty open in terms of its content. So this year they invited me, and I wanted, of course, to do something on Russian cosmism. And of course, because of COVID, normally it happens in person and all of that, but due to the situation, we're doing a part of it virtually, and then a part of it will be in person when I'm able to get to Prague. So thank you very much. And Oxana Timofeeva is a professor at the Stasis Center for Philosophy at the European University at St. Petersburg. She's also a leading researcher at Tyumen State University and a member of the artistic collective Chto Delat, and also the deputy editor of the journal Stasis and the author of the book History of Animals from 2018, Introduction to the Erotic Philosophy of George Bataille from 2009, How to Love a Homeland, which was published in 2020, and the upcoming book Solar Politics, which is also what this talk will relate to a specific chapter of this book, which is really amazing and so interesting and very important, I think. And we will also include this chapter in another publication on Russian cosmism that will come out next year in Moscow in Russian. So I think that's probably enough of an introduction, and yeah, we can start if you want.
Thank you, Anton, for the introduction. I will share a presentation. Okay, now I cannot make it. Okay, I don't know. Yes, in 1913, there was an opera staged in St. Petersburg, in my city, which was called Victory Over the Sun. It was a futurist opera written in an artificial Zaul language by Alexei Kruchonych to the chromatic music composed by Mikhail Matyushin, with the poetic prologue by Velimir Khlebnikov, and the stage designed by Kazimir Malevich. And this was an experimental avant-garde piece depicted the people of the future, futurist strongmen who conquered the sun. One of the characters of the opera, a futurist strongman, confronts the star and says, "Son, you bore the passions and short them with a flaming beam, will yank a dusty coverlet over you, lock you up in a concrete house. The sun symbolizes here the old and beautiful romantic nature that has to be superseded with progressive technologies and abstract forms. Eventually, Malevich's black square replaces the solar circle. The world will perish, but there is no end to us, futurists claim. Capturing the sun within the concrete box, humanity triumphs over death that is inherent in the cyclicity of nature and throws itself into another infinity. The old sun will never rise again, but people don't need its rays anymore. Digging to the depth of the earth, they create their own artificial suns. The early Soviet ideology and culture of the new nature and the new man reinforced in the context of rampant industrialization was already in evidence before the Russian Revolution, championed by avant-garde movements, as well as by cosmist utopia that put forward ideas of expansion into the cosmic space and human immortality achievable by technological means. As Boris Groys says, on the difference between these cultural trends, cosmism and avant-garde, these are two different trends. One can say that, I quote Boris Groys, one can say that Russian cosmism proposed a counter-project to the futuristic project of the Russian avant-garde, even if both projects started from the same basic presupposition, namely the decisive role of technology. Russian futurists saw in technology the force that would destroy the old world and open the way for building the new world from point zero. In contrast, Russian cosmists hoped that technology would become a truly strong messianic force that could fulfill the expectations already transmitted from one past generation to the next. Look, so there are two strategies. One cuts the past. So one is against the past, it's building a new world, and the other addresses, so the other builds a new world by addressing to the generations of the past. In 1895, Russian cosmist and the theorist of rocketry and astronautics, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, published a science fiction novel, Dreams Above the Earth and the Sky, which alludes to the idea of humanity's eventual colonization of the Milky Way galaxy. The novel describes the belt of asteroids around the sun, inhabited by colonies from bigger planets who had already overcome gravity and developed into a new form of life. Akin to plant-like, but at the same time highly intelligent. Approximation to the sun allows them to control the power of its rays and enjoy it as they wish. For the most effective usage of the solar energy, these post-human communities decompose planets and turn them into a necklace that consists of rings dispersed in space. As he writes, without soil, rotating around the sun as the rim of a wheel around its hub. A similar fantasy was presented in 1937 in the novel Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon. And in 1960, it was popularized by theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson, who suggested that the growing energy needs of advanced technological civilizations would inevitably lead to the formation of special megastructures of this kind around the sun. And if we find their traces in the cosmic space, then this will be the proof of the existence of some extraterrestrial forms of intelligent life. It is remarkable that a hyper-masculine image of humanity as an all-powerful conqueror of the universe persists in the cultures of communist as well as capitalist modernity. There are humanistic projections on the one side, on the one hand, and the search for new markets on the other. Why does humankind or other technical intelligence need to colonize cosmic space? Because its growth demands more and more resources. Colonizing other lands together with their populations and natural resources, as well as colonizing other planets, is not enough. The desire to appropriate, consume, conserve, or store the gifts of terrestrial and celestial bodies pushes our civilization forward to the ends of the universe. Today, nothing is so abundant in energy as the sun, the disposal of which will supposedly satisfy all our economic needs for many epochs to come. There can be various modifications of the so-called Dyson Sphere or Dyson Swarm, which indeed have something in common with the concrete box depicted by Malevich as the black square. But the main principle is that it is an artificial infrastructure or megastructure that encompasses the sun, surrounds it with industrial stations and space habitats, and unlocks it in the cavern of human economy, instead of being dispersed around the open cosmos. The powerful solar radiation will remain within the sphere, and thus humanity will possess an unlimited amount of energy. Or rather, almost unlimited, for the sun is not eternal, it's finite, and after some billions of years, it will eventually cool down and die. For now, however, humanity will have enough time to get prepared. Using extreme amounts of stored solar power, it will travel further, discover new suns, and colonize new galaxies. In 1964, Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev proposed measuring the level of technological developments according to the amount of disposable energy. On the Kardashev scale, there are different types of civilization. The first is called planetary civilization. For it only uses the energy available on its planet. The second is stellar. It uses and controls the energy of its planetary system. The third is galactic civilization, which disposes all energy of its galaxy, like the Milky Way. There are also the fourth civilization, which is universal, and the fifth, multi-universal. It is so powerful that it can even itself create universes, just like God. For the time being, we have not yet fully reached even the first level. We still need to learn how to cope with the fusion and solar power on a large scale and to develop renewable energy consumption. Technically speaking, the sun is the biggest and the most powerful fusion reactor in our planetary system. In order to colonize cosmic space, we need to have something similar at our disposal. There are various fusion reactors around the world today, including the most popular tokamaks, but the main problem is that they all consume more energy than they generate. As soon as they reach the point of generating more energy than they consume, it will become possible to create new superpowered technologies for colonizing the whole solar system, including the sun itself. The Dyson Sphere and others like it will correspond to the second level on the Kardashev scale, the transition to which will require colossal resources. In order to get enough materials for building such a mega structure, future generations will have to disassemble all other planets of the solar system. They will blast out the other planets. All what we call nature will be destroyed for the ultimate megastructure, where humans or those who come after us will parasitize directly on the captivated central star. What are the perspectives of these developments? In 1956, in a short science fiction story, The Last Question, Isaac Asimov traced the cosmic expansion beginning in 2061, when the energy of the sun was stored, converted, and utilized directly on a planet-wide scale. That is, when human civilization became planetary according to the Kardashev Scale, up to its very end, which coincides with the heat death of the universe. There are 7 historical settings through the course of which humankind grows first quantitatively, but then in some quantum leap amalgamates into universal humanity, who is in turn gradually replaced by cosmic intelligence developed from all-encompassing superpower computer that exists in the hyperspace, made of something that was neither matter nor energy, and called AC. Until the very last moment of the existence of the world, AC, this supercomputer, tries to gather enough data to answer the question that humans long ago extinct used to pose at every step of their cosmic expansion. How to reverse the process of entropy that leads the universe to its inevitable termination. The answer comes at the end of the world. Matter and energy had ended, and with it space and time. Even AC existed only for the sake of the one last question that it had never answered from the time a half-drunken computer technician 10 trillion years before had asked the question of a computer that was to AC far less than was a man-to-man. All other questions has been answered, and until this last question was answered also, AC might not release his consciousness. All collected data had come to a final end. Nothing was left to be collected, but all collected data had yet to be completely correlated and put together in all possible relationships. A timeless interval was spent in doing that, and it came to pass that AC learned how to reverse the direction of entropy. But there was now no man to whom AC must give the answer of the last question. No matter. The answer, by demonstration, would take care of that too. For another timeless interval, AC thought how best to do this. Carefully, AC organized the program. The consciousness of AC encompassed all what had once been a universe and brooded over what was now chaos. Step by step, it must be done. And IC said, "Let there be light." And there was light. The more I think about it, the more I understand why Asimov said that this story was the favorite of all those he had written. It is interesting to read it together with another story written at the same time in the 1950s by Soviet philosopher Evald Ilyenkov. To be precise, this is not even a story, but as the author himself defines it, a philosophical poetic phantasmagoria based on the principles of dialectical materialism. Cosmology of the Spirit could not be published, his work, Cosmology of the Spirit, could not be published during Ilyenkov's lifetime. And there are reasons for that. With the strongest evidence ever, the essay argues that the final cause of humanity and its highest ultimate mission is to destroy itself. and the universe entirely. But let me have everything in its due order. Translating the Hegelian idea of substance as subject into the language of dialectical materialism, Ilyenkov claims that matter is intelligent. Not everywhere and at every moment, but somewhere, sometime, it develops into a form of intelligence, and therefore, in its integrity, matter possesses thought as one of its attributes, that is, not as contingent, but as necessary. The highest point of the development of the thinking matter is human intelligence. Not the one that we have reached now, but the one that will actualize itself in the future with the development of progressive communist technologies, when humanity will ultimately expand and become as perfect as God, or AC in Asimov's terms. Ilyenkov is an atheist. There is no God except for the human spirit that goes forward into infinity. The natural limit for its progression is the heat death of the universe due to entropy. And thus, the same question arises as in the previous story. How can this process be reversed? As an attribute of matter, intelligence takes an active part in its development. The reversal of the entropy, therefore, does not need an intervention of a supernatural entity like God. Humanity itself can make it. Ilyenkov even gives the answer as to how this will happen. The entropy cools down the sun and the planets. Everything is doomed to die in cold and darkness. The opposite to this process is fire. There must be a hurricane of global fire, I quote, a hurricane of global fire that at some point will return the volcanic youth to our global island. So the final goal, or in Ilyenkov's words, cosmological duty of humanity is to initiate a chain reaction. I quote, at some peak point of other development, thinking beings executing their cosmological duty and sacrificing themselves produce a conscious cosmic catastrophe, provoking a process, a reverse thermal dying of cosmic matter, that is, provoking a process leading to the rebirth of dying worlds by means of a cosmic cloud of incandescent gas and vapors. In simple terms, this act materializes in the guise of a colossal cosmic explosion having a chain-like character, and the matter of which the explosive mass emerges as the totality of elementary structures is dispersed by emissions through the whole universal space. Ilyenkov speaks of radioactivity and thermonuclear energy. Now, the mission of humanity is to press the red button. There is a big bang at the end of the universe and simultaneously at its beginning, but it is intentionally produced, and this already happened before and will happen after. It is a circle. Yes, he calls its culmination a sacrifice. Humanity will explode together with the universe in order to give it a new birth, an infinite number of times. Slavoj Žižek calls Ilyenkov's cosmology the point of madness of dialectical materialism and compares it to Saade's fantasies of total destruction. Ilyenkov's mistake, according to Žižek, is that he naively believes in reality as a whole, whereas it's not. As Žižek writes, the way out of this deadlock is to abandon the starting point and to admit that there is no reality as a self-regulated whole, that reality is in itself cracked, incomplete, not all, traversed by radical antagonism. The crack in reality is the thinking subject itself, and thus the cosmic catastrophe summoned by Ilyenkov is not somewhere else in the future or in the past, but here and now. In Aaron Schuster's brilliant formulation, every subject is the end of the world, or rather, this impossibly explosive end that is equally a fresh start, the unabolishable chance of the death throw. An interesting polemics against this critique is proposed by Katie Chukrov. In her perspective, what Zizek misses is the radicality of Ilyenkov's cosmology that consists not in the thirst for destruction, but in a so-called human resignation of the thinking matter that opens the dimension of the general, or as she calls it, the common good. Meanwhile, Katie Chukrov writes, meanwhile, a human is not just a natural or necessarily an earthly human being. It is the performance of aspiration for the general, the common, the communist, and its material implementation. Hence, if thought were to derive from matter in other non-earthly conditions, it would still remain that the human mind had always aspired to not merely intelligence, but also the common good. Thus, to achieve the dimension of the general, of the common good, the stage that will happen to be the dialectical unity of matter and mind. Mind consciousness has to be aware that it is never the self, that it is always the other determined non-self, destined to generalize itself in the direction of objective reality and social being. The stance due to which social being and daily sociality acquire a cosmological dimension. This was a long quote. I think that the opposed arguments, Zizek's and Schuster's on the one hand, and Chukrov's on the other, can actually complement one another. Yes, the thinking subject is a kraken being that is itself incomplete, and it is precisely in this guise that the thought acquires the power to resign itself to the good. The subject as the end and the beginning of the world does not equate to some egotistic individual, but appears as a kind of explosive elementary material particle of the incomplete universe. Nothing contradicts common sense so much as the ultimate performance of consciousness in which we practice the good, but by undertaking the task of the ultimately non-human violence, becoming general, solar, volcanic. One more effort, one movement out of teleology, and cosmic sacrifice will become a desperate gesture, like that of a person who commits the act of self-immolation on the square. Here I stop, and I suggest, or maybe we should come to some questions, discussion.
Thank you, Oksana. So I'm asking the public to, if you have a question, please ask Oksana.
Well, there are some really good questions that were sent in by Juliana, who's one of the students in the class, Juliana Sokolova. Unfortunately, yes, she was not able to attend the talk itself, but she read the text that, Oksana, I hope you don't mind, I shared that chapter from your book with the students, with the class, so that they would have a little bit of preparation for your talk. So she actually sent a whole bunch of questions, and they're all quite interesting. I don't want to take all the time and ask all of them, but I'll just maybe read a couple of them. So what she's saying is, it's interesting. She wants to know what motivates your own interest in these ideas. What is the context of your interest in the issues explored in this paper? What brought you to think about these issues? This is a kind of a funny question, but it's not uninteresting. What is your relationship to the sun and to the entropic death of the universe?
Good. Well, let me begin. There are few moments, so to say. Let me begin with how how the idea of writing this text came to my mind. It was in the beginning of 2020 when the pandemic started, and I was writing an academic article on Georges Bataille and the notion of the concept of violence in his writings, and I was puzzled by the concept of the non-human violence, which he suggests in some of his essays. The non-human violence. I was thinking violence is something that we usually associate with the human subjectivity, with a certain subjective act, a responsible act. Someone must commit or must not commit violence, but the non-human is something different. I was trying to understand what it can be from the part of what is the title of the text Oxana is talking about, please? Which text do you mean?
It's a chapter that we're using in the book, on the sun.
My book is called Solar Politics, but I was writing an article, and then it grew into a book, because all of a sudden I began to understand what is, and Bataille also uses this word solar violence, not only non-human violence, but solar violence. Solar violence is something like an ambivalent potential of sharing, and an ambivalent potential of the gift. Solar politics, according to Bataillean way of thinking, is a gift politics, or solar economy is a gift economy, but it's not necessarily something good, because what is the sun? It's something that can that warms everything up, that gives all life to everything on Earth, but at the same time it can burn you down. It can burn cities and countries, as we observe, for example, as we observed last summer, which in St. Petersburg was amazing. It was fantastic. It was like I don't know, so warm, as if it was not somewhere in the north of Russia, but in the south. It was beautiful, but in other regions like Kuwait, the cars were burning, and the forests are burning everywhere. So the sun is generous, but its generosity is indifferent to our expectations. And then suddenly I began to understand, because Bataille didn't write about climate change. Also, didn't he write about pandemic? Because he did write in the 30s, in the 40s, when people were thinking about other issues, like the global war, for example, or something similar, and now it became clear to me that climate change and pandemics are precisely the examples of what can be called the non-human violence, because it is without a subject, but at the same, it is violence. It violates our habitual ways of being, our entire historical dispositions. But this is kind of a theoretical background. But also I have a biographical links to solarity, which I only discovered later. when I began to write this book about solar energy and solar power and the ways of using it, and my kind of desire to decolonize it before it has been colonized. So the idea of colonization of the sun can be put together with other colonizations and thought within the framework of decolonial theory, philosophy, and practice. It's never too early to decolonize the sun. That's what I think. But the biographical is funny. When I was a little girl, our family moved to South Kazakhstan. And first, there was a small town, not a town, but a small settlement in a desert near the, well, it was a land with the small hills in the desert near the Balkhash Lake. And the task was to build the city. So my father was hired as the one who will blast the hills in order to build the city there in the desert, which would be called the City of Sun, or sunny city. And indeed, and we lived there in this desert in such a basic conditions, without even proper water and fish, food, whatever. It was really modest, and the City of Sun was never built, as it usually happens. But I remember we spent quite a time in Kazakhstan, and I remember that the sun was really crazy there. It was big and red, and I observed it every summer night, that the big red circle disappeared beyond the horizon of the steppe. It was so beautiful. I was amazed and fascinated by this image, and aesthetically, and it also had something. And then I started to think about the connection between, I mean, not in the childhood, but already when I began to write this book, I was thinking about the non-human violence, and then about the connection between the political utopias that exist in the history of political thought, of philosophy, of culture, like Campanella, Tommaso Campanella, or Plato, or Marsilio Ficino, and the symbolics of the sun. So that was the idea, the background. I mean, maybe not personal enough, but still.
It is. I love the Kazakhstan story. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, of course, because Antonia, you did this film in Kazakhstan when I was fortunate.
I'm obsessed with
loved
Kazakhstan.
It.
It's an amazing place. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really a cosmic place. Right.
Yeah. Andrei had a question, I think.
Because, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, hi, thanks so much. I have a question, basically two questions though, or maybe remarks to kind of reflect on. And the first one is that I was just like dealing a lot with Solarpunk lately, and yeah, it's really interesting that we have like a cosmism on one end, and I don't know, Solarpunk on the other hand. It seems like this notion of violence and also like life-giving sun is something that is also present in the utopian or futuristic imaginary as well. But I also read your text about oil, the one for efflux. And I was just wondering if there's any connection between, particularly, I'd say the planetary distinctions between those three types of, I guess, like ontological status of planetary subjects. And maybe that if, I don't know, cosmism is a way to shatter those distinctions as well, like in its ontology. But I don't know, maybe it's too convoluted of a question. I'm sorry, but thanks again.
Yes, I take it as two different questions, and they both are very good. I would love to talk about that. Well, first, Solarpunk, with their imaginations of a bright, beautiful future. On the other hand, the idea of solar violence, of burning down the universe, which has several, again, aspects. Not only climate change, which I mentioned, it's getting hot, but also the very idea that culminates in Ilyenkov's untimely philosophy. And what I would like to say about the Solarpunk, politically, it's diverse. So there is no one Solarpunk, but different Solarpunks, and within the but what is within this tradition, I find that they have in common is that they put some great expectations towards the transition to solar power. Well, basically, if we will learn to use solar power, solar energy, which is clean, and much cleaner than the previous forms of energy, like oil or coal or other things, dirty things, the world will get much better. It will become, so the planetary and also the cosmic space will become a garden, Eden garden. And it's this beautiful dream, in my account, is not alien from that very idea of colonizing the sun, to which I refer. So basically, say if we would create a Dyson swarm or a Dyson sphere, we will also live. We can also live in a Solarpunk utopia, because it will be warm. It will be no day and night. We will, all infinite amount of solar energy will be under our control, exactly like the futurists were proposing in their novel. We will capture the sun. We will get it and put it in our pocket. Basically, that's the idea, which is not that different then. And I'm slightly passing but for which, as I mentioned, humanity has to destroy a lot. In order to create a Dyson swarm, we have to destroy the whole solar system, basically, just to build, because it needs a material. And then we can build a beautiful solar utopian world. Then indeed the sun will cool down, but we will already have enough power to travel to other galactics, etc., etc. Then I mentioned, passing to the second question, how these two entities, how these two subjects relate, the oil and the sun. You might notice that I think of energy, and I think of energy also in terms of human energy, of labor power. When I speak of energy as a natural resource, a fuel, and when I speak of fossil fuels, for example, I think of the labor of the labor of nature, the labor of the earth, for example. Marx was saying that Marx was using this word, the son of labor. So son is a laborer. Son is the like in Andrei Platonov's novel Chevengur. Son was the last proletarian, the only one who was working when the communist utopia was already achieved in one separate village. So everybody was just having rest after the hundreds years of capitalist exploitation, and only the son was working there, giving them everything. And then I invite everybody to think the son in these terms as a laborer, as a comrade worker, and as the one who is exploited and potentially colonized, but still is too hot to be colonized. It's too hot. We are not strong enough. We are not like those futurist strongmen to attack this object and to finally colonize it. But we are thinking about that. The science, our technology, everything is in this state of readiness for a big jump into this direction. But what do we have? We have this, as Michel Serres says, substance, oil wells, coal mines, and other things that present a kind of solar reservoirs on Earth or under Earth, beneath the ground. And they are like these suns in the pocket, and they are black, like the dead sun, as Nigaristani would say about oil, these dead suns or corpses of the sun, which we call fossil fuels, and which we characterize as dirty kind of energies, desiring to transform it into something really clean. And the other aspect is its. Oh, but the other aspect was not in the question. I think I answered.
Yeah. I could just like I just like a little follow up. If I made it, probably will also answer the question that is in the chat. Maybe is that then Cosmism is also freeing the sun, right, from the labor for this that is giving its surplus value to the mankind, or am I reading it wrong?
Cosmism. I didn't think about that. I just thought that, yes, I just thought that Cosmism just sharing the same dream to conquer the sun, basically, but it does not really know why. And yes, because there is this idea of infinity, which we desire and we can really reach, and and the sun is a necessary condition. But then I come to Ilyenkov. Because I was thinking about this, there is a certain teleology indeed, but behind it there is this absurd idea, but not that absurd, of a kind of Big Bang, which humanity creates. So why I passed to Ilyenkov's cosmic how's it called, his text, sorry, Cosmology of Spirit, indeed. It's like Hegel's phenomenology of spirit in a dialogue with it. He's thinking about the real teleology of spirit and the real end of the spiritual life, which is not the end, which is simultaneously is beginning, and he shows that that this teleology can be achieved via a big sacrifice, and this sacrifice is precisely that which makes humanity solar. So humanity transforms into basically a huge fusion reactor, we ourselves, as a thinking matter. And then the sun doesn't matter. The universe will cool down, but we will perform the sun's task. So the humanity and the sun becomes one. That's Ilyenkov's dialectic.
Right.
And therefore it's unlike anything else. It's really crazy. Yeah.
You know what's really strange is recently I kind of learned that the reason why we age and die, it's a process of oxidation. Yeah, that's why there is this very popular treatment like antioxidants, and I never realized what it actually is. It's just much of our blood, or a very large proportion of our blood, is made of iron. Yeah, and it's literally iron that is oxidizing inside of our bodies, slowly aging and killing us. Yeah, but iron in the universe comes from only one source, and this is dead stars, stars that become super dense when they collapse before they turn into black holes. Their core turns into iron. They produce enormous amount of iron, which is why iron apparently is so abundant in the universe. It's all the sort of cadavers of dead stars. So like the strange thing is that we are partly made of that already, and it's the same death that kills us. Literally, it's not as a metaphor, not as a poetic kind of image, but as a kind of a scientific process, which is absolutely bizarre. So in some way, we're already kind of partly the sun or other suns, yeah, except that we're made up of their dead remains, yeah, somehow.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting commentary.
It's not really from me so much. It's my friends from Rax Media Collective, the artists from India, and they're also obsessed with the sun. And we had one of these kind of discussions also online, and they started speaking about this, and it totally shocked me because I was not aware of this somehow, that the connection is so immediate and so literal, you know.
So basically, yes, this non-human core of humanity is not a metaphor, but it's indeed a literal. Yes, so.
But actually, Ali Hussein has a really good question. Ali, would you like to say it out loud? Hello.
Hi, Ali.
Ali, are you there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry again for I mentioned this question of the title of the text, because I didn't read it before, and thank you so much for making this talk public that people could attend it out of the class. And this. My question is of thinking this of this relationship of that the three circles you mentioned is in your talk, like there is thinking of the earth, thinking of from the perspective of anthropocenic thinking of earth, so like centered human in earth, then thinking of the planet, thinking of galaxy and all of this, like to what extent this limits the dialectics in earth itself, because we are talking, when we talk about humanity and we're talking about human, and this brings this discussion of the universal human, who's the universal human, all of this. For the thinking of, if we think of humanity that think of colonizing sun, how it could be thinking of from the perspective of decolonization of Earth, which is a mission could not be accomplished in my thinking of it, because most of the what, if you could say, the centers of value, centers of capital or whatever, that it's built on this colonization in the earth itself. And also these centers are in the dark. Actually, the elects so much sun, like most of the centers of in US, Europe, whatever. Maybe China does not help me in this argument so much, but and most of the historical decolonized has so much of sun. For this, like, it could be a very basic, naive question, but when you were sharing your thoughts in the talk, I was thinking of this, because also you mentioned and how it could be interesting in the when we think of decolonial thought. Thank you so much, and sorry for the long question.
Thank you, Ali. For me, it's really one of the most important questions, and I write actually about it in the book Solar Politics, but somewhere else there is a chapter on that, where I address to some thinkers like Catherine Yusuf. I really love her book 1 Billion Black Anthropocene or Not, where she's talking about the so-called extractive geologics. This is a very good concept. What does she means? When colonizers come, and I speak of extractive, then I extend this concept into extractive cosmologics, which allows me to speak about colonization of the planets. So when colonizers, let's take this classical historical case, when they come to Africa, what they see there, they see that the land offers a certain amount of natural resources, which they can take, which can be taken for free. And that's the condition of every, that's the 0 point, the beginning of every capital. This appropriation of something like freely available as a resource. And that's exactly how they treat the human beings that inhabit that land, as a supplement to these non-human natural resources, as a human resources, as those whose labor can be also taken for free as a resource and used for the profit of those persons who came there to colonize. When I was writing this chapter, so I felt anger. It's an emotional part of research which must be implemented into the process of thinking today. Necessarily, I think this affective part must be returned to that. Otherwise, we cannot really understand what's going on. And then, for example, Achille Mbemba in Necropolitics and in other his writings, he speaks about the non-existence of those who live in the colonized territories in a Heideggerian sense. So he refers to Heidegger, and he emphasizes Heideggerian difference between a simple kind of life and existence. Maybe one is living but does not really exist because only human being exist, etc., etc. And so they didn't. The colonizers don't really treat those who are there as those who exist. What then happens when people come to Mars? Recent discoveries. They see that nothing is there. They say there is no life there. There is no life on Earth or on Mars. Let's build sustainable cities there. Let's see what Mars offers. I've read the articles. I saw how people are speaking about that. Mars offers this and this and these chemical elements. We can use them to build vertical sustainable cities, which will allow to host a certain amount of people from the Earth. We can start to sell apartments right now. In these future cities, in 100 years, you will already buy an apartment on Mars. Green, wonderful, clean, warm, beautiful. There will be vertical gardens. But let's return then from this extractive cosmologic to the extractive geologic. Isn't it the same when they come to the when oil workers when oil companies come to the north of Siberia and see the oil fields? Do they discern that there are deer breeders there, the Khanty people, the small nomadic nations, indigent people? No, they say there is no one, nobody there. But this land offers some great natural resources. For a colonizer, every land is a kind of every non-colonized land is Mars. Is a kind of Mars. It's empty because the optics is not because they do not have, because the colonizing mind doesn't have an optics which can discern the inhabitants of the alien territories. And then I think about the ways of solidarity with what is colonized anyway, or whom or what is colonized. This doesn't matter now, because if people there came to blast the hills, to blast the rock, then imagine you are a rock. It's not that a rock has something human in that with which we can feel solidarity, anthropomorphize it, etc., etc. But we have something rocky. We have that iron in our blood with which we can feel that feeling of solidarity with the paradoxically with the iron that they will try to extract. and to sell, I don't know, whatever, or to build a satellite megastructure around the sun. That's what I think. Did I answer?
Andre, do you want to ask your question you put in the chat? Turn on the microphone. Turn on the microphone.
Oh yeah, I don't wanna colonize this conversation, like, to be honest. So maybe I can wait until others are and then I can ask or something. So it's more equal.
So I'm trying to read this question.
Carolina, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. And I wanted to ask you actually a very similar question as one of the questions that Juliana sent, which is how did Shukra, I hope I'm not mispronouncing this name terribly, come up with how did she come up with the common idea? Like, what are the connections?
You know, Katie will be speaking. She is also one of the guest speakers.
Okay.
Maybe
okay.
this is a question you can ask her directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Andre, so go ahead with your question.
Okay, so I was just like, maybe it's also kind of a basic question, but I think like the connection may be interesting, because I was wondering what connections does Cosmism have in 2021 when we are in post-cybernetics world. Nick Land also talked about the heat of universe. The cybernetic thinking brought it into kind of a discourse. And we also are in the post-speculative turn, kind of a philosophical and thought theory, territory. So I was just like wondering what those movements in the recent thinking and theory bring to Russian cosmism, if they actualize it in any new way, or if there's any interesting interplay to you. It's very open, so that's what I would want to ask.
I teach Russian cosmism from time to time, and when I discuss it to my students, they sometimes say, "Oh, this is very much similar to a certain like recent philosophical trends." But they also have something very special about them, something special to add. First of all, cosmism. It's difficult to say about cosmism as a general movement, because all thinkers are very different. But the political historical context of cosmic ideas was like totally opposite to nowadays situation and to nowadays spiritual background, because CCRU and whatever cybernetics, hyperobjects, speculative turn is obsessed with the outside, and it's dark. And it's dark, but dark in general. Dark, I mean dark ecology, dark ontology, dark materialism, etc. Or what Eugene Tucker calls climate mysticism. What is climate mysticism? That the great outdoors, the external world, the world without humans, is is alien, is fantastic, and it's dark, and it's scary, and it's probably hostile to humanity. Well, Cosmism, in a way, shares the same presupposition, but it's at the end of the day, it's optimistic. It wants to domesticate the entire universe, and the entire, not only to domesticate the Earth, but the universe in general. So, I mean, even like Cosmism, there are cosmic ideas before Russian Revolution and after Russian Revolution. And it's somehow strange because revolution produces cultural kind of cut. But at the same time, there is a continuity. Cosmism exactly is a continuity in, between these two parts of the Russian cultural history. And in this continuity, say, revolution must not only be planetary, like the world revolution, as Bolsheviks wanted, not only one revolution in one separate country, but also revolution in the world revolution, the global revolution, but also the cosmic revolution in the entire universe, because now it's organized in a hostile manner somehow. But it can be reordered according to some rational principles, according to some utopian politics, and according to some new economies of death and life that will actually finally make us happy. Will you find it in contemporary philosophical trends? Never. Solarpunk, yes, maybe, but in like speculative turn and the dark ecology, I think no, because I don't know why. Yeah, I do not
Right.
want to go that far. I just I just sketch just an idea which just came to my mind because I didn't think about that before.
Sure. I would
maybe one more moment.
Sure.
The heat death of the universe was indeed an idea popular in the 60s, both in like Lyotard wrote about that, and now we read Lyotard's work also because people like Ray Brassier addressed to this text and to this question posed by Lyotard: can thought go on without a body? Which means how the thought relates to the end of the universe. But in the 60s, both in Soviet Union and on the West, people did not really confront ecological crisis and climate change. These ideas were not, these phenomena were not yet known. Therefore, scientists, philosophers, writers, they were fantasizing about like billions, trillions years when the sun will cool down in its natural way. But they didn't think about carbon emissions, for example. So our situation is totally different because between these long-awaited heat death on the universe and our own situation, there is a climate catastrophism, which is totally new and which cosmists couldn't take into account.
Благодарю вас.
We have one more question from Daria.
Yeah, thank you. When I read the article and I listened to you, I thought slightly like different than like Zizek referred to Ilinkov's works, and he said that it's a fantasy about total destruction. And for me, it seemed like it's a big control obsession in colonizing of the sun ideas. And actually, I found it a lot in all cosmism of 20th century, in all Russian cosmism. And then I thought, and I wanted to find for myself, like from where this control obsession is going. And I came to idea that cosmism is really easy to adaptate to any like political ideology, and to support it, like, and to use it as a tool. So like in 20th century, when it lost this religious post-Christian component and became like more suitable for Soviet ideology, and then get more and more like socialistic like parts. So I seen like it became a tool for the regime. But then it started to seem to me that it doesn't stop with 20th century, and it's like keep going, and like that cosmism and also like became a tool for capitalism, but like to sell things and to get sympathies and attention. So it's get adapted to capitalism as well as it was adapted for the Soviet ideology. And I wanted to ask you if you agree with it, if you agree that it's adaptable like tool, and that it's a lot of cosmism on which modern or existing political like ideology kind of capitalizing on. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that it can be anything, because well, for the so-called let's call it capitalism or late capitalism consciousness, late capitalism spirit, absolutely everything is adaptable and instrumentalizable, because it is precisely the way of instrumentalizing everything, of transforming things and ideas into commodities and services. And cosmism as a spiritual movement is ambivalent. It can be like every philosophy, I mean, worth its name. It can be used by the left, by the right, by the bad guys or good guys. And that's precisely the point, as far as I understand. Anton's entire project is to struggle a little bit for what is living, for what can be reappropriated in Russian cosmic tradition, reappropriated and taken from the captivity of I don't know how to say, taken back from the enemy, so to say, and turned against them. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So to find a certain potential, because cosmism is directed towards the future. It says something about possible futures. It teaches us to think about future in a non-conformist way, and this is already something interesting to work on it. There are things that can be probably must be avoided, but there are also good stuff that can be reappropriated. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, thank you. Like, I was really interested on this view of capitalism and cosmism, and I understand that you found that like it's the way that capitalism using things and transform cosmism, and yeah, that's really interesting like point to me, because before I used to think about it, this cosmism itself, like it's really like dangerous and transformable, extremely transformable and changeable tool, which can be used like by anybody, and it's really easy to sympathize to it, and it's really like easy to use it against the people, make them sacrifice, or yeah, like change to utopian mind. And I'm really interested to find a way how to change or how to develop cosmism to make it more friendly, like to the future and to the people. And yeah, that's I found this really inspiring, because cosmism of 20th century really scares me, and I found it like dangerous and evil somehow. Thank you.
All right. Look, like Marxism, for example, can be usable and like historically can be used by those who then build Gulag, etc. As everybody will see. And but still, I'm a Marxist because Marxism is about something different. That's what I think. Nietzsche's idea was used by Hitler. But it's not really about Nietzsche. So right, we can take good care of another meanings and another usage of ideas.
It's like a good idea in the bad hands, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Do we have any other questions? Because it's 7:30. And probably we should end.
And in Russia, it's 8:30.
8:30, yeah, 1 hour more. So if not, I would like to thank you, Oksana, for your time.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the interesting discussion.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was really great. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks in St. Petersburg.
Yes, see you.
And I thank everybody for attending the talk and questions. Bye
See
all.
you next week. Yeah.
See you on Tuesday next week at the talk at Nikolai Smirnov.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Благодарю вас.
Bye.
До свидания.